Welcome to Star Trek, our ongoing journey through the episodes of Star Trek. Don't know why I started like that for such an auspicious episode, but we are.
I was going to ask, like, do you have like a sonic screwdriver in your pocket or what?
Well, it nearly was a Doctor Who-esque moment in that episode. Yes, we have just watched Voyager's first season, Eye of the Needle. This was written. I'm going to go right into it. I'm going to launch right in. We're going to go at the speed of a transporter beam. This was written by Hilary J. Bader, who wrote a couple of things.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, you know the name?
Oh yeah, from Batman,
really?
the animated series, and Batman, the
really?
Batman Adventures. She's a banger of a writer, Hilary J. Bader. She wrote one of my favorite episodes of Batman New Adventures, where called Off the Cliff, where Barbara Gordon has a dream that she died.
Oh, is it the one you think, and then like Gordon is chasing them down and stuff like that?
Gordon hunts down Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
but please tell us the rest of her.
Oh no, she's done some good ones. You know, The Loss from TNG and Dark Page, which is a brutal episode. DS9, she also did a couple Battle Lines, which was the Kaio Parker episode, and Rules of Acquisition, which is the Pell episode, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. Which is a good episode. I like Pell a lot.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of some good episodes there. Directed by Winrich Kolb, who we've done so we're going to be mentioning his names quite a lot. But yeah, this was so. I remarked in the watch along. This was the episode that they had their finger on the button for, like, we have this way for getting home just in case the ratings say they don't like not being in the Alpha Quadrant. So this is still them with their hands on the buzzer to say, like, let's go home, but not so. But guys, what did you think about Eye of the Needle featuring one young Vaughn Armstrong?
Don't be shy.
You talk.
Honestly, I quite liked it. Honestly, I know that there was a lot of like techno babble going on, but like, especially given the magnitude of what they're attempting, I feel like that's fine. And the majority of it is, like, there isn't like bullshit like warp particles going on. You have your made up particle for the week of inverterons, which I'm sure.
I think Verterons is mentioned with DS9 with the wormhole as well. I think they do a lot of that in emissary.
Okay, in which case that's fine. Yeah, that's fine then. But there's enough emotional stuff going on in here that I actually gave. Guess what? Unlike Q-less, this episode is interested in its cast. It wants to ask questions about Janeway, about the Doctor, about Kes. It wants to ask about Harry Kim, which, we don't usually care about. But guess what? The Kim storylines you get are of a certain type. You either get Harry Kim is the Greenhorn Starfleet ensign, even when he's been on the ship for 7 years. Or he has some kind of romantic, entanglement, which ends badly for him. Or he wants to get home. And this is the third type, which is usually one of the better ones. I find that they usually at least tap into a bit more going on. And I feel like this was one of the better versions of that, mostly because you haven't seen it done 20 times. And the fact that they set up very early on, okay, they're not going to be able to use this to get home. Like, it's a case of progressive scaling down of expectations. Although I think maybe the ending is a little bit too much of a scale down. Okay, we know for a fact it doesn't come back, so it would have been nice if it. But and the fact that Tuvok doesn't let them know until Ramor's left is a bit like, what would it if you had told Janeway before he left? It makes you look like a dick. It really does make Tuvok look like an absolute asshole. Like, you have letters that you sent, bro. You sent letters to your fucking family and kids.
No, he can't. Saying, hey, he can't change the timeline. Yeah. You can't give him knowledge of his future.
No, he's.
No, I'm not saying give him knowledge of his future. I'm saying, like, tell Janeway, by the way, this guy's gonna die in a few years. Tell him to make arrangements just in case something happens.
I think that's still a little bit of temporal prime director of fuckery, which usually Janeway doesn't really care for.
Temporal prime director.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go on.
For anyone who's just watching these reviews out of sequence, we just watched Q-less, the Deep Space Nine season 1 episode, so we might be comparing them a bit. And yeah, unlike that episode, this script is much tighter. The stories, the character interaction is far more tightly woven. And I actually like the twist at the end. It's very Hitchcockian, like, it turned out he died.
He's been dead the whole time.
He's been dead the whole But I almost find this episode a little dull. Like, I'm actually more interested in the B story of the Doctor gaining some recognition as a sentient being that I am. It's a perfectly good techno twist storyline, a little wormhole we can send messages through to. But they bring it back again later on in a later season.
Yeah.
So it
all these floating around.
Yeah, I generally find, Voyager is sort of lower on my list of favorite Star Trek shows. Yeah. So the pace of this doesn't. Yeah, for many reasons. This has the benefit of not having a lot of Chakotay in it, but. Sorry, Otto. Otto's not even here. I don't even know why I'm making that comment.
You're gonna easily watching this,
Yeah. But yeah, so not my favorite, but it's a very solid episode. It's well written. It's good sci-fi premises. Really good performances from Vaughn Armstrong and the rest of the cast. A lot of really great performances from Janeway, like good facial eye expression acting from Janeway. I'm sad we don't see more of her really interesting quarters. There's just like some beautiful looking artwork on her walls and a gramophone, and they just never address that for the rest of the series. So yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. It felt like they strung the series of events that led them to sort of the end, sort of them finding an anomaly, to it to being a wormhole, to discovering someone at the other end, to realizing they can send messages through, to realizing they can transport through. I feel like they paced that just right. And sort of, it is technobabble heavy. There are lots of scenes of them going, well, blah, 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 the doodly-doo. And then, it's a lot of talking heads in rooms interspersed with some sort of great interplay with the Doctor. But I feel like it was paced in a way that it didn't feel like they're suddenly rushing to an escalation. I felt like it was set out very well, sort of from start to finish.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's just like I wouldn't even say it's perfectly acceptable. Like, that would imply that it's like in some way mediocre. I think this is in some ways a quite good episode. Like, this is not a story you could tell on TNG or DS9. Like, this is a actual story that, I always feel like every time we do a Voyager review, there should be a little tick box that says, did this take advantage of the setting and setup that we have from the very beginning of the thing? And it's like, this one does. You can't really... Yeah. Maybe you could tell this in Discovery, but even then I wouldn't. Like, this is kind of like you can only do on Voyager. So I have to give it props for that as well.
Yeah, it is.
They could bring this back on Discovery, where they could send messages back through time to their friends and family.
They'll
kind of did that at the end of season 2 with the red signal, but yeah.
This I liked, like you say, there are things that this episode can only do because it's Voyager. Like, there were a few human moments. Like, this is a surprisingly serial episode that kind of does evolve a lot of things. It evolves Harry Kim's sort of hope of getting home. It shows his naivete a little bit as well. It shows like the Doctor evolving into a more well-rounded member of the crew. Like, there are some elements they actually do call back on, which is unlike Voyager a bit later on. But I've forgotten my original point I was going to make on top of that, and it's completely gone. Nope, brain has failed me.
Serialization, maybe where it was going to end up.
Yeah, so gone.
Did you say what your general impressions of the episode were?
It was okay. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like, I was hooked to watch it. I feel like this is, I don't know. It's a strange one because not a lot happens, but a lot happens. It's a lot of people talking, and they're basically stood in front of a little wormhole. And, like, you get the drops and the twists at all the right kind of moments. I don't know. I was just impressed with the pacing.
So what you're saying is, in this episode of Star Trek, they stood around and talked a lot about, like, ethics and personality conflicts and what they wanted out of life while examining the scientific phenomena. Yeah, you actually got the mission statement.
I got a good
Star
Trek.
Trek gave you
I got a good trek.
Exactly. You went on a trek through the stars.
Well, I didn't go very far, but yeah. But
it's super bottle episode.
Yeah.
Like,
there's super cheap. Guess what?
Aside from renting that gramophone.
Wait, we didn't see Neelix this episode, did we? Zero.
Yeah, that's why it was so good.
Yeah.
Oh darn! Exactly.
I just realised we had Kes but no Neelix, because like I feel like with him,
I'm allowed to say that because I've stuck up for Neelix for a few times, but like he was not required in this episode at all.
Do you want to talk about?
Well, back in the 22-24 episode a season days of television. Like that's what they used to do. They would write whole episodes that didn't have certain actors, so they wouldn't have to pay them for.
So they could go on a holiday or
like 24 episodes, or if they had like a child or something was going on.
Yeah.
How do we want to talk about the Doctor's arc a little bit here, because this is kind of another step in the evolution of the Doctor's step towards becoming a full member of crew and becoming a sentient life form, and sort of his interactions with the Kessners. So I thought Jennifer Lean did a really good job this episode. I thought she was very...
Yeah, no, Auto's been standing up for it, and I'm like, this is one of those episodes where I kind of have to agree, like, Kess gets a really bad rap from the fandom, and it's really easy for that to be the case when she has so many embarrassing episodes to her name. But every time they actually called on her to act, to actually push herself and do something, like, I'm thinking of Warlord especially, but, like, she can act. She can do it, like, even with a shitty fucking wig on. Like, she can do good work, and she has decent chemistry with Rob Picardo and with Kate Mulgrew, and I believe that this is how this character would act. And it doesn't call attention to itself in that, because the Ocampan species is so like obviously designed to be it's so weird and queer, and it's like this doesn't call attention to itself. It's like she has that naivete and that innocence, but you buy it and you don't go, it's because she's a weird 3-year-old and it's creepy or whatever, which the worst episodes of Kess do. Like here, she just feels very genuine, and I like that a lot about her.
Yeah, and I like in that Doctor storyline that Janeway is initially very much a Starfleet engineer. She's like, no, he's not alive. He's just a holographic projection of light and programming. There's what are you talking about? But then, like a proper scientist, she goes and investigates herself to judge for herself if he's actually displaying, characteristics.
Stimuli and response. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
I often feel like going on to Janeway in this episode, and Kate Mulgrew's acting was great. There was a lot of good reactions. It felt very... Something about it felt a little bit sort of, as if someone in the background saying, cue and emote now. And she was like, huh. It was very kind of like instant program. I don't know.
Almost like there was some kind of director.
I know. It was strange. It just felt like this was Janeway's emoting episode where she was just going like, and I can do serious dramatic, and I can do side eye here, and I can do like she was giving the full range.
She did a really good job.
It was good. It was good. Like, don't get me wrong.
I mean, take advantage of your Kate Mulgrew. She's great. Yeah. Like she has incredibly emotive. She got a very emotive, dusky voice.
Yeah, they lit her beautifully in this episode. Like the nighttime bedroom lighting. It was quite the.
Okay, I also have to point out, I appreciate that bedroom scene because it was so unexploitative. Like, that's a very classy nightgown she's wearing. Like, I'm sure that was probably something they had to work out with the producers. Like, I know that Jerry Taylor, I believe, was very insistent on that, and Kate Mulgrew was on the same mind of, we are not sexualizing Janeway, we're not interested in doing that. So even though it's treated exactly the same as if it was Picard, it's like treated with the exact same severity and gravitas. And
Picard was pure cheesecake all the time. They put that guy in like a Speedo and like a hip-length robe on Risa.
Okay, cool. You know what? Then in which case she's treated with more gravitas and respect.
She was.
Yeah.
They weren't hanging her naked by her wrists in an interrogation
that scene is not sexy, though. That is not remotely sexy. I do say so.
But no, she was definitely, there's definitely not an ounce of like, oh, this is for the men kind of situation. Just like, no, we've woken Janeway up. She's wearing her nightwear and her hair's all like, she was very like, dramatically splayed out in her bed as like, morning, darlings, I have woken now. And who is this Romulan I'm speaking to? Oh, wonderful. You can take my messages, please.
Yeah, it was very non-exploitative. She was only sexy in that scene by virtue of the fact that Kate Mulgrew was incredibly sexy. Like, there's only so much you can do to like.
All right, comic book guy.
we can't put a hood over her head, okay?
Exactly.
They tried to put her in makeup. She declined. She said, "I'll just have the rock steel hair."
I really enjoyed the Doctor. Like, guess what? Rob Picardo has never done a bad day's work in his goddamn life. That man is a consummate professional. He understands the assignment every goddamn time. He can do humor, he can do tragedy, he can do pathos. And I really appreciated him sort of exploring his own role here, because it's a case of, it's not just that Janeway and the crew are approaching him from this perspective, but if you think about that conversation that she has with Kess, she is right. He is being a brusque asshole. He is being obtuse, but he has no frame of reference to not be that. He's based off of known asshole Louis Zimmerman. And it's like, he can only be so responsible for that. But the instant that you provide him with the idea that he can be something more, he's like, that's interesting. And it's like, that sort of like you're saying with like the scientist in Janeway responds to that and goes, okay, if I prod you in this way, do you respond in an interesting way? And he does consistently, and that's why it's so interesting to watch. Like, we were talking about like, oh, would you skip time Q-less rather? And he said no, because like John Delancey's like performance is great or whatever. But I wouldn't say it's an essential episode of DS9. I would say this is kind of an essential episode of Voyager because like without it, you cut out a really fundamental part of Doc's like character development. Like you get similar beats done earlier and after with Cassian, with like a lot of the establishment of the character, but he expresses his want for a name. That comes back so many times and is the foundation for a lot of really emotionally heavy moments, like Schmollis with Denara Pell and Schweitzer with was it Lady Freya? Like, there's a lot of callbacks to the emotional arc that this episode sets up. It does a lot of work in 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a credit to Bader's like screenplay. It's a very tight script.
Yeah, and I also think we have to give credit to Vaughn Armstrong here because, like, guess what? He's a Romulan scientist, but I buy that. I buy it that he has this inquisitiveness that's curbed by that Romulan's like
skepticism.
That skepticism, that scrutiny, that inbuilt, but that is curiosity like tempered by suspicion. And the thing is, those two kind of go hand in hand relatively well, actually. Like, if you think about curiosity and suspicion, they kind of are the same thing, just amped up on different like angles. So that's why he's so much more receptive. Like, if this had been a Romulan military commander, you would have been fucked. There would have been no chance he would have gone through this. But in some ways, they got lucky.
Federation.
Oh god.
It's very specifically a science vessel.
Yeah.
So you're much
that
like
works.
Sort of you always wonder about Klingon artists and scientists. You wonder like, is there some similarity between Federation scientists and Romulan scientists? Like, is there that base curiosity and sort of openness too?
Well, yeah, because it calls back to that moment. It's in the chase, isn't it? At the end of the chase, where it's a Romulan commander that calls up Picard, I think, or is it Cardassian? I think it's Romulan.
I think it's Romulan. Yeah, the Cardassian was Gull.
Yeah, and it says, someday. Yeah, someday. It's like, and it kind of capitalizes on that, where it's like,
right.
Yeah,
and the Orion,
like Klingon,
the Orion scientists in those old scientists episode of Strange New Worlds, but
not all pirates. No, Vaughn Armstrong's great. Just for context, I think this is the first time in our Treks we've actually seen Vaughn Armstrong.
Oh wow! But he does a great job. He acquits himself very well.
He actually has more. He has more roles. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, have you not done Enterprise? Like, is he not in the?
He's. Oh no! Yeah, of course we've had Forrest, haven't we? Yeah, no, I do apologise. We have, of course we have. Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I mean, people always credit Vaughn Armstrong. Jeffrey Combs for having the most roles. Is actually Vaughn Armstrong has more. Because he's Captain Chorus, Golden Hearth, Sescal, 2 of 9, Vidian Captain, Alpha Herosian, Korath, Cleon Captain, Cretisan Captain, Maximilian Forrest, and Admiral Forrest. So he has loads of roles. He's in more. But yeah, this is great. Every time Vaughn Armstrong is on screen, it's always a delight. He's another one of those.
We should be asking why is Vaughn Armstrong not on screen?
Yeah, why is he not a main character with Jeffrey Combs in Enterprise? But there you are.
That is a point, actually. Yeah. Because I'm going to call dibs right now. That scene where like he's talking with Janeway about like his kid and everything. I'm calling dibs because I know what you fuckers are like. Like that's a really well acted emotional scene. And the problem with Voyager, like they talk about it all the time in the behind the scenes stuff, is that they asked like the main cast to under emote a little bit so that the alien characters would come across more strongly. And I feel like this is one of those instances where that approach kind of works, where like it really sells that this guy is not pulling the rug out from underneath them. He is not duplicitous. He is genuinely curious, and he has a degree of empathy, which is something that Romulans so often feel like they lack. And it makes such a difference when they have it. When you have someone like Laris or Javon, or like Telek here, it's like it makes a massive difference when they have a degree of empathy, and you can just have a conversation with them.
Yeah, it helps flesh out the species as well, because we don't know a lot about Romulans. In a lot of Star Trek, they're often like most times you get a character that comes on as a one note. They play the exact sort of human-led racial stereotype that their character, the Cardassian is suspicious, the Ferengi is greedy, the Klingons are aggressive. But you get the odd character here and there, like Kurak as well from the TNG episode, which is a Klingon scientist, and you get a lot of Quark and Rom and things like that with the Ferengi. It gets more nuance to the race that makes it more believable, which is always appreciated.
Yeah. Well, TNG even started that with well, actually, as I think about it, the Romulans have always been one of their better developed alien races, even going back to Balance of Terror.
Yeah,
I feel like they have a lot of good individual episodes, but they don't get as much focus as the Klingons, and I kind of wish that they did, because every time you get a good spotlight episode on a certain Romulan, it's almost always a banger. Like, if you think of the Defector, of this, pretty much any Laris appearance in Picard, they could really carry an episode because they are one of the more fleshed out and understandable and believable races. The only thing that's really different about them is that they're more secretive and they have kind of a quasi police state. But even then, there's differentiation between that in unification. Say whatever people want about Discovery. I fucking love what Discovery did with the Romulans and the Vulcans. I thought that was inspired.
Yeah, no, the whole Navarre thing, and there's room for explore that culture as well, because there's obviously divisive elements. And there's probably a story about how it came to be as well. If you want to do a 27 series episode, you can have all that go on. But yeah, no, definitely. And it's so unusual for us to be talking about Romulans in a Voyager episode, we're back to the Alpha Quadrant, And
it's just one of the only 3 times they appear,
something like that, yeah. Would you like to guess what was the major gaffe of the episode in terms of production? And it involves, I'll give you the biggest clue. It involves rank.
Oh, is someone wearing the wrong pips? Is it Tuvok?
Correct. Tuvok is in fact a lieutenant commander this episode for some reason.
It's always the wrong fucking pips on Tuvok.
He's eating corn that day. It's fine. Tuvok loves his corn.
100 fucking years. He should be fucking.
You just screwing with Kim early on. This is just early Tuvok messing with and just changing his rank.
Yes.
You just put.
What are you?
Pip goes on. Pip goes off. Pip goes on. Pip goes off.
You talk about this episode being sort of instrumental for or necessary for the Doctor's growth in terms of once he's watched. I think it should be on everyone's watch along really, or Voyager mandatory, because it kind of gives the idea of how lost they are and how much hope they need, and it adds that little step in to say they're miles away. They have this desperate need to just contact home. That when you get Taurus running in through, I've got this big thing I need to tell everyone about. You feel the need, even though it's a bit contradictory, because earlier she's like, oh no one cares for me back home. I'm better off here on the ship. But she comes through so enthusiastic to say we could probably transport people, and you kind of feel that righteous energy coming through.
Well, because she has that moment again of empathy with Harry, with Starfleet, where it's maybe it doesn't matter to her, but she can see how much it matters to Harry, so she's excited on his behalf almost. I also want to give a shout out, because I know that Otto would want me to mention it. Guess what? We love a competent professional on the show, and Tuvok is on the fucking ball every goddamn step of the way. He has his phaser on his hip when a known Romulan is coming aboard. He makes sure that the very first thing he does is scan the man to make sure he is within their right time frame. Even though I think it was still dumb of him not to tell Janeway before the guy left that it was 20 years that he was going to die. Guess what? He did adhere to the temporal prime directive. He was a consummate.
DTI aren't coming for him.
You kind of got him. Yeah,
Delmer and
Luxley. They'll be Captain Tuvok, no problems. Yeah,
the best guy ever.
No
a poster of him on the wall.
Tuvok.
The one guy, someone from Starfleet, did it properly. Oh my god.
He doesn't have to break the temporal prime directive because he knows Janeway is going to do it for him.
Yes.
He's playing a long game. He's like, I don't got to do it.
You're a loose cannon, Janeway.
Get results.
All right, let's antsy over to our best and worst moments. I feel like we've been talking a lot of good stuff this episode. I want to hear some of your what your nitpicks are with this, because I feel like the more we talk about this, the more my initial rating is going up. And again, I completely forgot to pre-rate. We forgot to pre-rate this episode. It's because I haven't got auto going. Pre-rate. Go the reverse order. Stars, best and worst moments.
Well, guess what? I dibs that best moment of the scene between Telekramor and Janeway on the bridge, because it is a really good... It's the emotional core of the episode. Yeah. Without that scene, you completely do not buy the rest of the episode. It does not have any emotional weight. It does so much heavy lifting. And it's... You also have to kind of give both Mulgrew and Armstrong credit. They are doing it on view screens. They are not in the same goddamn room. This is something you have to keep in mind in Wrath of Khan as well. All of that acting is being done to a screen. Yeah. Shai, I'm sure you can attest to how much of an acting performance is done via visual cues and body language and subtle things off of your acting partner, and they're emoting off of a screen. and they just completely sell it. They work it, and it's like that's an underrated skill, and I feel like they really both need a call out for just how well they did there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the good actors will show up on set and read with you, at least, give you that much. Like on Wrath of Khan, they just never even met, which is all the more impressive. But
that's very Shatner, honestly. That's very Shatner. Yeah. Also, Overtime points out, it's kind of unfortunate an episode taking advantage of the series premise is noteworthy. Yeah, you're not wrong. In terms of worst moment, I guess I'd call out like the various like extended scenes of technobabbly stuff. But I didn't even mind it because it didn't feel as mindless as usual.
It made sense. I mean, when they were talking about, when they were talking about
doing
doing
problem they have to solve.
Yeah, well, they're talking about doing the audio stuff. It's like, they have to change the high pass filter. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's not even technobabble. That's just they're not making stuff up. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah. No, they do their due diligence to say, guess what? This is not an easy thing that we can do, because then it asks the question of, well, why don't you just do this? And it's like, and pretty much any time I had a question about why don't you just do this, they did it. The next line. And that means that they are following a logical progression of events. But yeah, I could definitely see why it would bog down the pacing a little bit. Like maybe you could have sped that up a little bit, but even still, like, you kind of got to pay at least lip service for technobabble. So I don't feel like it's that much of a drag on the episode.
Gone shy, best and worst.
Yeah, it's very solid technobabble. If you're gonna have it, ask your sound engineers for some audio Audacity filter terms. Best. Did you say what your worst moment was? Were you saying
just the technobabble slowing things down a little bit? Okay. But even then, I wasn't that.
Yeah. I'd say that my best moment was the scene with Janeway goes down to talk to the doctor and actually ask him like, "Hey, what do you need?" And he's like, "Oh, no one's asked me that before." Which goes to a lot of sort of marginalized people just don't know what they don't know yet. So that's a great scene, and it's just really well acted by both Mulgrew and Picardo. I guess it's a very strong show. It's a little standing and talking throughout the episode, but the talking is good. It's well done, so it's hard to complain about that. I guess my only nitpick is that they could have just sent the message chip on the 30mm wide probe through the wormhole initially and not had to deal with all the
it would have slid off. They didn't have enough tape. They couldn't tape it down.
All the technobabble. they're like doing all this thing to compress the beam and put it all through all these filters. It's like, why don't we just record it on a USB key and send it through the wormhole?
It's got 64 gigs on this thing. We got loads of room.
Yeah. That's my only real complaint.
Yeah. I really liked the Taurus and Kim scene. They're talking to each other. There's working midway with solving the problem. You're getting the two perspectives of two things, and you kind of you get that little bit of Taurus backstory, which we hadn't had before. About her mother.
Yeah, I pointed that out when we were watching that. It's like that's like the first time I think that gets mentioned, and that becomes so important to her character in the last half of the seasons.
Yeah, and that was really 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 nice. And you kind of get that contrast between the Marquis, the Marquis who's got nothing to lose, and Kim who's got everything to lose, or has kind of lost everything and is desperate to get it back. It was, a really, really nice moment. I kind of have my worst. Yeah, no, my worst moment is definitely the moment when they beam that cylinder over as like the first test transport, and Telek Ramor's just sort of looking at it and going like, that could just explode.
Not even safety goggles.
No safety goggles. No plexiglass.
That's
he's just
terrible.
Like,
You're right.
He's just looking at it going, look at that. Woo, that's really good. And like Vaughn Armstrong, bless him, is trying to like focus on this for as long as he can, going, yeah, wow, look at it come. Woo, that's really good. Wow, here it is. Nearly here. You nearly got it. You can do it, guys. Come on.
It's such a ship in the bottle episode. They couldn't even build enough more of a set so they could have had it materialize in a different place. They're like, no, it's happening on your desk.
But it takes an uncomfortably long time as well. There's like a good 20 seconds. He's just like, is this scene over here? Can I? No, still got to look at it. Okay, right, hang on, right, ready? Okay.
Consummate professional.
But it's a minor nitpick. I think we're all sort of like struggling to find like things in this episode. But I think like on another,
it's an extremely competent episode.
It is, but yeah, I feel like there's something that doesn't elevate. I feel like it's very flat. Like it doesn't have highs or lows. It sits exactly where it started.
It's not exciting.
Yeah.
But it works. But it is a classic Trek. It's something about it that's like, yeah, you've got all the notes of some good Trek here. There's a little twist at the end, and there's time travel, and there's stuff like this. But I feel like everything is there. So on that note, before I go too detailed into the analysis, Stars, what is our rating criteria for this Eye of the Needle?
Gentlemen, how many fine Kim holes you've gotten us into out of 10 would you like to give this episode?
What was it before? What was it before we came up with Kim holes? Because that's new. That was during the watch along.
It was virtual emanations. I was like, no, Kim holes is too good.
No. All right, Stars. How many Kim holes are you giving us this evening?
I've actually kind of talked myself up. I was going to say 7.5, and I'm actually going to go out for an 8. I think it is a extremely solid, competently written, well put together, slightly unexciting, but just good episode of Star Trek. Like, it is what I want. There is nothing offensive, especially compared to fucking TNG Season 1. Like, fucking Christ. Like, this is like fine dining after that. Like, this is like unexciting in that, like, no one, like, no one gets shot with a phaser. The most exciting thing that happens is that a guy manages to fucking wank too hard and break his hand.
Yeah, we didn't even discuss that on the review. The fact that this guy comes in with all these masturbation injuries. Oh, I hurt myself working out.
That guy. He didn't even get a name. He's never seen again. The Doctor just ends his life.
I can't think about it too much. I'm gonna start killing again. But yeah, no, it's just a really good episode, like of TNG, of like Voyager Season 1. It literally hits all the notes. It's like we keep on poking fun at the fact that the worst episodes of Voyager you could make TNG, but this is only something you could do on Voyager. Well done. You paid attention to the brief. You read the fucking series Bible. You paid attention to the continuity. The characters are all in character. Characters are progressing. The arcs are going. Well done. Guess what? If the entirety of Voyager had been quite this solid, I feel like people would look back on it a lot more I obviously want it to be a bit more exciting than this episode, but this is a very firm benchmark of a good episode. Good. So 8. 8 Kim holes.
Shai, how many Kim holes do you have to give?
If we had been asked to pre-rate this, I would have given this a 7. And the mere fact that Hilary J. Bader wrote this episode and talking with you guys about it almost convinced me to raise it. But when you describe it as flat, that was like a perfect description. Yeah. Like, there's no real highs, and there's certainly no lows because it's a very tight episode.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I can't really describe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just
consistent.
Not exciting.
Yeah.
It's a yogic episode. It's unbending. It doesn't. It's very balanced.
It's the downward-facing dog of Star Trek episodes.
But ultimately, I'll take an episode that's inconsistent, like Cueless, that has some good memeable moments, like I'm Not Picard, and the over flatness. So I'm going to keep it at a 7. And which is very good. I think 7 is very solid. Watchable, but yeah.
I'm going to go.
Idle.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I really enjoyed it. I was hooked through it. It didn't excite me, and the twist was fun, but I still enjoyed it, and there was some really good moments. It's an essential episode of Voyager in my book, so I'm gonna go for 7.7. I'm gonna break this sort of little middle ground there. I'm gonna go for. I was like, 7.5, and no, I enjoyed it more than that, but I didn't quite want to give it an 8 because, like I say, the flatness and how it was. I felt like Janeway was maybe a little over emotive, although it was still good to watch. And then she picks up a picture of Mark and swoons over that for 2 minutes. Like, oh, Mark, I forgot about you.
Don't worry, the writers will too.
That was my worst moment. Her picking up the Mark photo. It's like, who cares?
It might as well have had the words "reminder of my past" written in A4 inside the picture frame. For all we care about Mark.
Here, Chakotay, put this mask on. We'll pretend.
This is terrible.
I'll put some sound of some dogs barking in the other room. It'll be fine. On that note. Well, that is... Sorry, my voice is breaking up.
It's like a vinyl record, and she puts it on her gramophone.
Oh,
and
yes,
that plays the sound of dogs barking.
Do you think she has the music from, at Captain America when it's him and Peggy dancing at the end of Endgame? It's like... That's what they play.
It's been a long, long time, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have rated that at a 7.6, which I feel is about right. That is... a strong,
yeah, that's good.
A strong Voyager, which brings Star Trek up to
Justice wishes. Justice wishes.
Yeah. This brings Star Trek up. My voice is going now. Up to a 6.4 Star Trek in total. But this, what did I say? That was a 7. What now? 7.6. So we rated this about the same as Hegemony, which was the season 2 Strange New Worlds series finale. A little bit above the Serene Squall. Actually, it's sitting in the middle of a load of Strange New Worlds episodes, so I feel like that's good. That's good showing for Star Trek, because this is completely scientific and absolutely flawless rating system that cannot be faulted.
Our methodology is beyond reproach.
Exactly. I'm only not wearing my lab coat because it's out for wash. Anyway.
Rest in peace, Hilary J. Bader.
Yeah. Did she pass away?
She passed early. She was like 50 or something.
Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, your work has not gone unnoticed. It was...
guess what? We will sing the praises forever.
And on that note...
until the show ends.
We will see you all in a couple of weeks. We're going to have, hopefully, if all goes to plan, we shall have Marie joining us. Stars a good long friend. We're going to have a shrantastic couple of episodes where we're going to do the Andorian incident, followed by the Shadows of Pajem. So come and join us for that a couple of weeks and a couple of weeks after that. So until then, check the Discord, like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And my voice is now literally about to go. I'm almost there. I will see you guys later. Let me get the right button. Ta-ra!